Hey everyone, we are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
2 years. Nearly 2 full calendar years of silence. No press conferences. No podium. No accountability. Deshaun Watson, the man holding a $230 million fully guaranteed contract, the man who is supposedly in the middle of the most talked about quarterback competition in the entire National Football League, has not said a single word to the media since before he ruptured his Achilles back in 2024. Not one sentence, not one soundbite. And the Cleveland Browns, the organization that handed this man the most unprecedented financial commitment in professional football history, are standing there letting it happen. I'm Dre Fiver from Dre Reports, and today we are going all the way in on the story that the mainstream sports media is dancing around but nobody is saying out loud. Deshaun Watson is in serious trouble before training camp even begins, and the Cleveland Browns may be actively positioning Shedeur Sanders to fail right alongside him. Let's start with the silence, because it is deafening and it is telling, and I need you to understand why it matters more than almost anything else happening in this quarterback battle right now. Mary Kay Cabot, the longtime Browns beat writer for Cleveland.com, a woman who has covered this franchise through every high and every devastating low for years, publicly called Watson out this week. She pointed out, in writing on record for the entire football world to read, that Watson has not addressed the media since before his first Achilles rupture in 2024, and that as he attempts to complete what would be one of the most improbable comebacks in recent NFL history, it is probably time for him to speak. That's not a hot take from a television personality looking for clicks. That's a veteran beat reporter who has earned the trust of this organization over many years, saying publicly that something is wrong with this picture. And here's what makes it worse. According to Cabot's reporting, Watson was not expected to speak to media on the second OTA session open to reporters, which means that if he continues to dodge, there are only 2 more windows before mandatory minicamp: the Browns Foundation golf outing on June 1st and OTA number 8 on June 3rd, where he could theoretically make himself available. If he misses both of those, we're looking at mandatory minicamp as the next realistic opportunity. And by that point, the narrative will have calcified. By that point, people won't be asking whether Watson is the starter. They'll be asking whether Watson is mentally checked in at all. Now I want to be fair here, because I always try to be fair even when the facts are working against somebody. There is a version of this story where Watson's silence is strategic, where his camp has decided that any comment he makes right now becomes ammunition for critics, for doubters, for the Watson haters who have been sharpening their knives since the moment he got hurt. There is a version where the silence is a calculated move to let his play speak rather than his words. I understand that version. I can respect it intellectually, but here's the problem with that strategy in the current media environment. Silence doesn't protect you. Silence creates a vacuum, and vacuums get filled by reporters, by analysts, by former players on podcasts, by beat writers on Instagram, with narratives that you have zero control over. By choosing not to speak, Watson has handed the pen to everyone else, and not everyone writing this story is writing it in his favor. Speaking of people writing the story, let's talk about the leak. Because buried inside all of this Watson drama is a detail that I think is one of the most revealing things to come out of the Browns organization this entire offseason. In late April, a report surfaced, attributed to sources close to the team, stating that Deshaun Watson had emerged from voluntary minicamp as the favorite to be Cleveland's starting quarterback in 2026. Watson had the edge over Shedeur Sanders in the 2-man competition. Sanders had, quote, plenty of ground to make up. Now, think about the timing of that. Think about why that information comes out in April. Think about who benefits from that information being public in April, months before a single preseason snap has been played. The analysts on Yahoo Sports asked this exact question, and I think they got closer to the truth than most. Why would you announce a quarterback pecking order in April or May? Who does that serve? The most cynical reading, and I'm going to give it to you because that's what we do here, is that it serves the organization. It protects the investment. If Watson is already being positioned as the frontrunner before the real competition begins, if the narrative is already being shaped around him having an edge, then when they eventually name him the starter, it doesn't feel like a shock decision that requires justification. It feels like the natural conclusion of a process. They're managing the optics. They're laying the groundwork. And Shedeur Sanders, whether he knows it or not, is being used as the foil. But there's another reading, and this one I actually find more interesting. What if leaking that Watson has the edge is a message sent directly to Shedeur? What if the Browns coaching staff, Todd Monken, the coordinators, the people who actually evaluate these players every single day at practice, are trying to send a signal to a 22-year-old rookie who by multiple accounts has a little bit of Brett Favre in him. A guy who doesn't want to run the drill. A guy who just wants to go play. A guy whose attitude is, let me get into a game and I will show you everything you need to see. That's not necessarily a bad quality. There are quarterbacks in NFL history who practiced like they were going through the motions and then became transformed beings the moment the lights came on and the real ball was snapped. Favre was one of them. There are others. But those quarterbacks also had organizations that trusted them enough to live through the messy practices. And right now, it appears the Browns are sending Shedeur a very clear message. We are not going to hand this to you. You have to earn it. And if you don't take practice seriously, we will use Watson as the starter and dare you to prove us wrong. Now here's where I land on all of this, and I want you to hear me clearly. Both of those explanations can be true simultaneously. The Browns can be protecting Watson's narrative and sending Shedeur a wake-up call at the same time. Organizations make multi-layered decisions constantly, especially when the stakes are this high and the financial and reputational exposure is this significant. What I'm confident about is that the report served the organization's interests, not Watson's, not Shedeur's, but the front office's. And that should make every single person who cares about this quarterback battle very, very uncomfortable. Let me tell you what's at the center of all of this, because I don't want us to lose the thread. There's a drill, a specific drill that has been making the rounds in the football analysis community. It's a simple footwork exercise. Receive the ball, fake pitch, get into your throwing motion, deliver. The kind of drill that sounds basic but actually reveals everything about a quarterback's coachability, his attention to detail, and his willingness to do the boring, unglamorous work that winning football requires. And according to people who watched this drill, Deshaun Watson ran it crisply, with intent, with the kind of precision that suggests a man who is fighting for his professional life and knows it. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders ran it with less conviction, less commitment to selling the fake, less urgency in the footwork. And that's the clip that multiple analysts pointed to when they said, hey, maybe the report about Watson having an edge isn't as fabricated as you might think. And I have to be honest with you, that bothers me. Not because I think Shedeur can't correct it. He absolutely can. But because it feeds into a perception problem that Shedeur does not have the luxury of having right now. Shedeur Sanders came into this draft process having to fight perception at every single turn. The conversation around his draft stock was dominated by questions about his father's influence, his attitude, his coachability, his willingness to submit to an NFL coaching staff. None of those questions were necessarily fair. Some of them were flat out disrespectful, but they exist. They are documented. They are part of his public record now. And when you carry that kind of baggage into an organization, when those questions follow you into your first OTA sessions, you cannot afford to give anyone ammunition. You cannot afford to look like you're coasting through a drill that a 30-year-old coming off multiple major surgeries is running at full intensity. That is not a good look. And, if it's accurate, Shedeur needs to hear it. Now let's talk about Shedeur Sanders, because I cannot let this moment pass without addressing it directly. Shedeur Sanders, Shedeur's brother, a verified public figure with a significant following, responded to Browns beat writer Mary Kay Cabot on Instagram after she posted a graphic suggesting that the Browns should declare Watson QB1 immediately and let the first-team offense start to cook. Shiloh's response, and I quote, "Go make a sandwich, Mary. I want you to sit with that for a moment." A reporter who has covered the Cleveland Browns for years, who has built a professional reputation on fair and thorough journalism, published an opinion about the quarterback competition, an opinion that many people in the football world actually agree with on its merits, and a member of the Sanders family told her to go make a sandwich on Instagram, publicly, with the verified badge attached. I'm going to be very careful here because I want to be precise about what I'm saying. Nobody is required to agree with Mary Kay Cabot. Her opinion about Watson being declared QB1 is a take that reasonable people can push back on. That's fine. That's how sports conversation works. But the manner of the response, the dismissive, gendered condescension of "go make a sandwich," is a problem. It's a problem for Shiloh. It's a problem for the Sanders family brand. And whether it's fair or not, it becomes a problem for Shedeur, because whether Shedeur had anything to do with that comment is irrelevant. In the court of public opinion, the actions of the people closest to you reflect on you. And when you are a rookie quarterback trying to prove to a skeptical NFL establishment that you can separate yourself from the circus that surrounded your college career, having your brother pop off at a respected beat reporter on social media is the last thing you need. The last thing. Look, I've watched the Sanders family navigate the public eye for a few years now, and I understand the instinct to protect your brother. I genuinely do. When people are taking shots at someone you love, you want to fire back. That's human. That's family. But there is a time and a place, and there is a way to push back on narratives that doesn't add fuel to the fire. This was not that. Shiloh needs to understand, and I say this with respect, that his platform, his words, and his actions are not neutral right now. Every move the Sanders family makes is being watched and cataloged and used by people who want to build a case against Shedeur before he ever takes a meaningful snap in the NFL. And that brings me back to the bigger picture, because I think we need to zoom out and look at everything that's happening simultaneously. You have Watson refusing to speak to the media for nearly 2 years. You have a leaked report positioning him as the frontrunner before competition has really begun. You have analysts pointing to a practice drill where Shedeur looked less sharp than the veteran. You have a family member making headlines for the wrong reasons on social media. And you have an organization, Jimmy Haslam's organization, that has a long and documented history of making decisions that protect financial investments at the expense of competitive honesty. Put all of that together and ask yourself, is this quarterback competition actually a competition? Or is the outcome being managed from the top down, with enough theater around it to make it look fair? I don't know the answer to that question definitively. Nobody outside that building does. But I know what it smells like. And right now, it smells like the Browns are buying themselves time. Time to either see a miracle Watson comeback materialize, or time to eventually hand Shedeur the keys while being able to say they gave Watson every fair opportunity. Either way, the organization protects itself. Either way, Jimmy Haslam can point to a process. And either way, Shedeur Sanders has to navigate a situation that is significantly more complicated than simply being the best quarterback on the roster. Here's what I want Shedeur to do. Here's what I genuinely believe gives him the best chance of cutting through all of this noise and winning this job on his own terms. Run every drill at full speed. Sell every fake. Finish every rep. Make it impossible for anyone in that building to point to a practice clip and say he's not serious. Because right now, the people who want Watson to be the starter have one real piece of ammunition against Shedeur. Not his arm talent, not his football IQ, not his production, but his approach to preparation. Take that away from them. Be the hardest working man on that practice field every single day, and let the results handle the rest. Because here's what I know about Shedeur Sanders that his doubters keep forgetting. This young man has been doubted his entire career. People said he was only good because of his father's program. He went to Colorado and lit up a Power 5 schedule. People said his decision-making was a liability. He cleaned it up. People said he couldn't perform under pressure. He put up numbers in the pocket while taking more hits than any quarterback in the country. Every single obstacle that has been placed in front of Shedeur Sanders, he has found a way to climb over it. I have no reason to believe this one will be any different. Watson's silence is loud. The leak report is suspicious. The drama around the family is a distraction that needs to stop immediately. But none of it changes what happens when the whistle blows and the ball is snapped. That's where this gets settled. And Dre Fiver will be right here when it does. That's all for today. But before you go, smash that like button right now if you think this Browns situation is more rigged than people are admitting. Drop in the comments. Is Deshaun Watson's silence a red flag or a smart strategy? And is Shedeur being set up to fail? Or does he have the grit to beat the system? I need your takes. I need your energy. And if you are not subscribed to Dre Reports, fix that right now. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, because we are the first ones on every story, every time, no filter, no fluff, no agenda. Let's go.